Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Monday morning. We all love Mondays. It is 9 o'clock. We will go ahead and get started. So, welcome to Alexander's Aesthetics How to Choose the Best Wax for You webinar today. If you are new to Alexander's, we are a wholesale distribution company for all your aesthetic needs, from skincare lines to waxing, obviously, to cotton, gloves, all of the good stuff. We have two locations. One is in Colorado and one in California. If you don't already have our contact information, we'll have all of that at the end of the presentation for you. Just some housekeeping fun stuff to start. If you have any questions, you can pop them into that handy dandy little question box. And Wendy in our Colorado location is going to be monitoring all of those for us during the presentation. I'm going to answer all the questions at the very end, but feel free to throw your question in that box like when you think of the question, go ahead and throw it in there. But I'm not going to answer anything till the end, just so we can kind of stay on track here. And please don't hesitate to ask any questions. That's what I'm here for. And I will pretty much guarantee that someone else will probably have that same question that you would have. So let's get started. So I am Tiffany Montalbano. I have been a licensed esthetician since 1999. I have owned my small business since 2005, and I've been educating for Alexander's for about 10 years now. I am still a working esthetician, so all of these products that I am going to talk about today and all of these items and bullet points we're going through is based really on all of the work experience that I've had and all of the challenges that I have. And again, I still have clients, so I still have my own questions and I still have my own challenges. So don't feel like, again, a question that you have, I can pretty much guarantee I've probably had that or I would have it at some point. So that is me. So what we're going to cover today, this is going to be me asking you a lot of questions. This is to help narrow down your preferences. We created a handout to help guide you down the road of the questions. You can download that in the handout section if you haven't already looked at it, printed it out, however you want to look at it. But it's going to help guide you to the best wax that suits you. So when you're considering the type of wax you should spend just as much time researching the brand and its qualities as you would with your skincare. We keep in mind that waxing is a skincare service, and clients are actually pretty impressed when you explain the wax that you have and why you have it. Most clients don't realize that there's thousands of waxes, just like there are thousands of skincare lines. So we carry 3 wax brands: Cerapill, Lycon, and Detal Wax. You don't necessarily need to know a ton about these brands quite yet. Again, the questions that we're going to ask are going to help guide you through this, but these particular questions aren't brand specific, but we are going to be diving into the qualities of these brands because that is what we have. And to be perfectly honest, these are the 3 brands and the only 3 brands that I've actually really ever used. I would say have some note-taking apparatus ready to write down the answers as these questions come up so that, again, you can help guide through. Okay, so many questions. Let's start with the basic questions first. Does texture matter? Do you prefer a gel texture, a creamy texture? Does color matter? Yes or no? Do you enjoy scents? Things that smell, flowers, fruit, sweet. You prefer non-scented. The performance, does it work? Does it not work? Are there tricks you need to know about these things? How much are you willing to spend? Is cost a factor for you? The type of wax, are you looking for a strip, a stripless, or both? So I created some videos because I do talk a lot about, I do talk about texture, and to me that's one of the bigger questions that I like to ask first, and only because we're really tactile people. And if something doesn't feel right to us, then we tend to not necessarily like it. So we created a couple little videos here that will help distinguish that gel versus creamy textured. So here's a video of a creamy hard wax. You can see it's a little thicker in texture. It still can be applied fairly thin, but still on that creamy side. And this is a creamier strip wax. So again, still a little on that thicker looking side, not completely translucent. So here is a gel textured hard wax. You can see that there's a little more translucency there. It's a little shinier. And here's a gel strip wax. This one is going to be really translucent, but again, extremely thin, going on in texture. So hopefully those little videos helped you kind of understand what I'm talking about when I'm talking about gel versus creamy. So let's break this down. Why choose gel versus creamy? Gel waxes, again, tend to be more translucent, so you can see the hair and the skin. Creamy waxes tend to be solid in color and thicker in texture. Now, what does pliable hard wax? So pliability really gear more towards hard wax. So if a wax is pliable, it would allow you to apply more hard wax strips down at once without the wax setting up to the point that it would break, crack, and you'd have a hard time kind of removing it. So it allows a little more flexibility in nature and allows you to take your time with the application and removal. Now, what about setup time? So the time it takes your product to set up can equate. I have a, hold on, technical difficulty here. Can everyone hear me? Is this okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. I was getting a crazy echo in my head there. All right. So setup time. So that can equate to whether or not your product is more pliable, going back to that pliable question. So if you have a longer time to move the wax around, it generally means that it's more pliable, and your setup period, your setup time is longer, which in some cases we really need or we would prefer, right? So again, this is really going to relate more to your hard wax. Your strip wax with setup time, that would just mean if the wax actually will dry on the skin, or if it always stays moist and tacky on the skin. You can apply, so an example is if you can apply your wax to, let's say, an entire like half leg before working on the removal, and it still comes off really easy. Okay. So, and generally, to be a little fair, I think most strip wax is really never truly dry to the point where you can't get it off on the skin. Now, another question we do get a lot, how many waxes should you have? That's a great question. I tend to say I feel like 2 is sufficient. Now, whether that is 2 different strip waxes or hard waxes or one of each, that's going to be your own personal preference if you want a strip and a hard or whatnot. But maybe consider one that's faster setting or one that's better for your sensitive skins. That type of difference between the waxes might be something that you want to consider. Now, how do you decide which 2? Okay, I want you to think about the body parts you want to work on and the type of clientele that you have. So an example, I work on full body with a specialty of male, female Brazilians. So for me, I have a strip wax for the larger body parts and hard waxes for the Brazilians. Or let's say you only want to focus on the face and you like hard wax. So you might have a hard wax that's greater for the reactive, the sensitive skins, and one that's better for the tougher, hard to get hairs. Okay. Some other important questions to ask yourself. This honestly is a little more about you. What is your current wax not doing for you? I want you to really think about that question. Do you have to go over an area multiple times? Does it set up too quickly? Or does it not set up quickly enough? Do you have a scent that you don't love? These are the kinds of questions that you want to ask yourself, okay? Now, what do you love about the wax that you're currently using? You think it smells amazing and it gets every hair every time, okay? What I'm trying to get into here is what you might be missing, right? So when you're looking, again, think of it as skincare. So when you're looking at your skincare brands, you're thinking, this particular brand is missing a really great hydrating mask. So then you'll look outside and look at other brands to say, oh, this brand has a great hydrating mask I can implement in on my shelf to retail to my clients. Okay, so things like that, those are the kinds of things I want you to really start to think about. Okay, now here's a couple of other things, some other potential obstacles. We sometimes forget that outside factors can actually affect your wax's performance. Room temperature. Is your room really hot? Is it really cold? If your room is warmer and one of your challenges that your wax takes so long to set up, maybe it's because your room is so humid. So you need to find a wax that is quicker in the setup time, because that way then it won't necessarily take as long as your current wax. Client temperature. Is your client really warm? Is your client really cold? That also can make a very large difference. Now, to combat some of these, is your bed warmer on, which also makes your client a little too warm, or do you not have a bed warmer? And that might be why your client is really cold. And if your client's really cold, then the wax sets up too fast and you have a challenge working that way. Okay, hopefully some of these are kind of starting to make you a little more aware of what we are or are not missing. Now, the beginning of the day versus the end of the day, does that matter? So an example, my particular office, it can be about 30 degrees. I live in California, so 30 degrees is real cold for us, but it can be really cold in there. It's a really old building, and I know that. So if I have clients first thing in the morning for waxing, I gotta get in there early because I need to warm up the room. Otherwise, my poor client who's laying naked on the bed is cold. And because of that, the wax that I have will end up setting up way too fast, right? So I need to be able to adjust the room itself in order for the product that I want to use that day. I want it to work appropriately, if that makes some sense. Okay, now here's one of the biggest challenges that we have, right? Sensitive, I always put sensitive slash reactive because to me those are different. Okay, now what type of wax is best for sensitive skin? Here's your answer. It depends on what exactly you mean by sensitive. Okay, does your client welt? Do they just turn red? Do they get hives? Do they get a rash? Now, these are different reactions. So if your client just turns red, a lot of times that just means that they're reacting to the trauma of waxing, right? That is not necessarily anything that you can always completely combat, right? Redness is a very normal reaction. But if they welt or hive, that's more of a histamine reaction. That means that the body is reacting. That's how their body is reacting to the trauma and the inflammation, right? So waxing can create some inflammation because it's trauma. And that particular client, they will welt from that, okay? So again, let's put our skincare hats on. Is it only certain parts of the body that react this way? Is it certain times of the month? This is where we want to start looking at the ingredients that make up the product. So hence I want your skincare hat on, because when, again, we're using that cleanser, that toner, whatever, we're looking at the ingredients that are best for our client's skin. Same thing here with our waxes. So let's get more into that. So let's get specific on waxes made for certain situations, okay? The next few slides, we're going to go into the actual waxes themselves by all three manufacturers. Don't worry about writing these all down, because again, that guide that we created is really going to help get you into that. Okay, so we're going to get into sensitive skin. Most waxes have a type of pine or beeswax resin. The resin is what allows strength and flexibility to the product. Okay, a lot of times, this is the root cause of the irritation to the skin. The waxes that are made for sensitive skin can have other ingredients in it, like titanium dioxide. That can really help with inflammation and irritation. Now hypoallergenic, this wax means that the resin is a synthetic resin. So there's no beeswax or pine in the product. The hypoallergenic wax could also contain other anti-inflammatory ingredients. It could have that titanium dioxide in there as well. Okay, we're going to get into which waxes are for the whole body and the best ones that are also for stubborn hair. These tend to be the most asked questions. Okay, so again, don't worry about writing these down. Your handout is going to help guide you through what I've already got up on here on the screen here. We've sectioned it out by the brand. Okay, so the sensitive skin hard waxes, that means these generally have either a synthetic or something like a titanium dioxide. In some product, it can be a micro mica, or Cerapill uses what's called the microcrystalline, which is their synthetic resin. So the essential rose and the Euros, both of those are that creamy texture, and they have the titanium dioxide in there. That's why they're better for the sensitive skin. The boudoir, cashmere, and the crystalline, those have that synthetic microcrystalline resin in there. There's no pine or beeswax. Okay, so those are great for those sensitive skins. Now into Lycon, the Lycotech White, the Lyco Dream, and the Magnifico, those three contain that synthetic resin. The Rosette and the So Yummy, they have that titanium dioxide. And just as a side hint, titanium dioxide tends to make the wax that creamier texture. So if you see titanium, none of ours have zinc in them, but a lot of other wax brands do have zinc, also can create that that creamier, thicker texture. Okay, so that, just keep that in mind. The Lyco Dream and the Magnifico Hybrid, which Magnifico is new and delightful, those both also have a pine beeswax blend in there, but because of that synthetic resin, it really helps with that hypersensitivity of the skin and the irritation that can occur. Now moving into the Atoll wax, hard wax, the white chocolate, that has the titanium dioxide. The crystal, the pink pearl, and the coral, those are all fairly similar in texture. They're just kind of different colors. Those have that synthetic resin. The pink pearl and the coral also do have the bees pine. Now the Cleopatra, that one's wonderful as well. That one just has that great synthetic resin in there. Okay, so hopefully that makes a little bit of sense. So again, these are just for that overall sensitive skin. This isn't the hypoallergenic. We're going to get into that. So when you have the sensitive skins, the ones that get red, also maybe your older clientele, right? My Nana is about to be 100 years old, and I still wax her, and I can use any of these on her, and it really helps alleviate any redness that her skin might have. She has thinner skin. She's a little bit on the older side, right? So if your clientele is on that more of that aging verge, you're going to probably want something geared more for the sensitive skins or reactive skins, mind you, too. Okay. Now the sensitive skin strip wax, Cerapill, we've got the Ease. The Ease has that titanium dioxide. Crystal Ocean, Nacre Blanc, they both have that synthetic resin in there. Okay, moving into the Lycon, the Lycotech White has the synthetic resin. The Rosette strip has the titanium dioxide. And I hate to tell you that, unfortunately, Lycon, a lot of the names are similar in the hard and the strip version of them. So they're similar in texture, ingredient. One is just a strip version, one is a hard version. So again, don't worry too much about writing it down. The handout explains all this for you too. Moving into the Atoll wax, rose oil and the aquamarine, tongue-tied on that one, those both have that titanium dioxide. So they're on that great creamy texture side, okay? Moving into the hypoallergenic. Now, the Cerapill, the hard wax, the Boudoir, the Cashmere, and the Crystalline, those only have that synthetic resin, right? So let's remember that synthetic resin means it's hypoallergenic because it doesn't have the pine or beeswax blend in there, okay? Lycon, they only have the Lycotech White. That is the only one that doesn't have the pine bees blend. It has that great synthetic resin. Atoll wax, the crystal, that is the only one that doesn't have the pine or bees, only that synthetic, okay? Most of these are all going to be a little more translucent in texture, and I like to almost semi-describe them sometimes as more of a silkier texture. They're generally more on that gel, but I like to say silky because it's just a nice smooth application, I guess is how I want to say that. Now, Cerapill and Lycon, they both only have one of the strip waxes that are hypoallergenic. The Crystal Ocean of Cerapill and the Lycotech White, again, on the strip version, that only has that synthetic resin. Okay, so there's nothing else, there's no pine or bees, okay? And again, that is where most of the time your client can find some of that irritation, unless they have an allergy to rose or lavender or something else in some of the products. None of these have any of that either. Most of your hypoallergenic waxes, again, are going to be a little more straightforward on the ingredient deck because you want less stuff, right? And a little more simplified there. So full body, okay? Now, full body, I only really marked down all the hard waxes, and I did that based on the fact that realistically, all strip waxes are great for the whole entire body. I mean, I'll take that back. These three product lines, these three manufacturers, all of their strip waxes are great for the whole body. So if you are a strip wax person, then that all of them are great for any body part that you're going to choose to work on. Now, for hard waxes, we've got on the Cerapill side, we've got the blue, the boudoir, the cashmere, the Euro blonde, and the crystalline. Now the blue and the Euro blonde, those I kind of like to say they're twinsies. One is blue and one is gold. That's really kind of your only difference. The boudoir, cashmere, those are a little bit different in scent and color. Same thing with the crystalline. The crystalline actually doesn't have any scent to me. I don't smell anything. They are very translucent and more of that gel type texture. They're great for the full body. And the example of full body, what I'm talking about is legs, backs, chests, arms, larger body parts. They're also all great for Brazilians because I know you'd ask me that as well. Now, moving into Lycon, the Lycotech White, the Lyco Dream, and the Magnifico Hybrid. Those are better for the full, if you want to use a hard wax on the full body. And those three, honestly, it's truly because this synthetic resin in these really allow flexibility and flow, I want to say, with these particular hard waxes. A lot of Lycon's the other hard waxes, they tend to be fickle is probably the best word I want to use. They're amazing for the smaller body parts, but I truly only found that these three are better if you want to use it on the larger areas. Again, legs, backs, chests, things like that. Now, Ital Wax definitely has a longer list here. Honestly, this particular list I actually kind of took from some of our clientele who uses some of these on the entire body and do very well with them. So the natural of Ital Wax, that legitimately has two ingredients, and it's bees and pine, and that's it. We've got the Azuline, the rose, the pour home, the white chocolate, the plum, the crystal, the pink pearl, the coral, and the Cleopatra. Now, if you notice too, a lot of these, you can go back and look, hey, I want a full body hard wax that is a hypoallergenic wax. Well, you do have options there, right? So again, when we get into, we'll show you the handout again, if you don't already have that printed out, that's gonna help guide you into that. Okay, wax for stubborn hair. Here's another challenge that we have, right? The ones that just, the waxes that you have a hard time with, that peach fuzz or that really thick, white, coarse hair, especially on the chin, right? That's always our biggest gripe. So with the Cerapill, if we want to use strip wax for stubborn, I'd go with the Ease and the Forte. We tend to be honest, we tend to forget that the Forte is around. I actually really truly love this particular wax. It is really great for that stubborn hair if you like strip wax. Lycon, we have the Azuline and the Rosette for strip waxes for that stubborn hair. Ital Wax, we have the Amber and the Rose Oil for those stubborn hairs. Okay. Now, with the hard waxes for Cerapill, we have the Blue, the Essential Rose, and the Home. The Lycon, we've got the Azuline, the Rosette, and the Lyco Jet. Now, again, these are all going to be a little different texture, things like that. But honestly, I kind of created this list based on what I really has worked the best for me in my own room with my own clients as far as stubborn hair is concerned. Ital Wax, hard wax, we've got the Natural, the Azuline, the Pour Home, the White Chocolate, and the Plum for those stubborn hairs. Okay, so you do have a really broad spectrum of different waxes to try out if you're looking for, again, those specific types of waxes, stubborn hair, sensitive skin, all of that. And again, if you go through the list, you'll find that even for the stubborn hair, a lot of the sensitive skin waxes can still work really well for you. So again, we don't need to have 45 different waxes. You can if you have the space for it. I mean, knock yourself out, I'm all about it, but I don't necessarily think we need to get that excited. Okay, here is the handout. Okay, so unfortunately the handout was a little bigger than we could fit on the screen. So you've only got a little bit of the Seropill and the Lycon, but you can see here that we've got each different type of wax. We have the hard waxes, your strip waxes, and we do have all of those sections that we have been talking about throughout this whole presentation. The only one I didn't get into was vegan, to be honest, obviously, because we didn't talk about that. But it does go through the texture, it goes through the scent, pliability, if you can use it on the full body, if it's hypoallergenic, and if it is vegan, because a lot of your clients, some of my clients are really starting to ask about that as well. So we do think that's a nice option to know, even if it's not something that you necessarily are a yes or a no for, now you have the information. So scenarios using that handout. Okay, let's say you're going to look for a Seropill wax. Let's say that you want a gel textured hard wax. You don't care if it has a scent, but you want it for the full body. Here are your options: the blue, the boudoir, the cashmere, the Euro blonde, the home, and the crystalline. So again, if you start looking at that handout and you go through those preferences, these are the ones that you would have to choose from. Now, mind you, some you're going to have more options than others, but again, at least it will help kind of define it down a little bit more for you. Now, let's say you want to look at a Lycon. Let's say you want a creamy textured strip wax. You do actually prefer to have a scent to it, but you really want it to be a hypoallergenic wax. So the Lycotech white strip wax, that's the wax that you would choose. Okay. Now, if we're looking at the Ital wax and we want a creamy strip wax, you don't have a scent preference, but you do want it to be vegan, the rose oil is your answer. Now, mind you, there might be a wax that doesn't fit all of your needs, so there might be a little bit of compromise on there, but you will know yes or no. Okay, so again, it can help at least break it down for you. Okay, so hopefully all that makes sense. Now, again, once you get to this point and you're like, oh my gosh, there's so many to choose from, or there's only one, maybe there's another one I should try, we can definitely help start to really hone in a little bit more for you as well, but hopefully this is a good start for you. Okay, now that I've asked you 1,000 questions, go ahead and pop Wendy's gonna pop on here, and she's been monitoring your questions, so she is gonna, oops, I get really excited about clicking this thing, I tell you. So she's gonna pop in here and start asking those questions that you guys have. Again, don't be afraid to ask questions.
Hi, everybody. Tiff, we've got a question here from Christina. What are the waxes that are best for redheads?
So that is always a tough one, right? Those redheads, they give you a run for your money. So I would go with if you're going back into that scenario, you're gonna wanna look for the ones for the tougher skin, right? So I would go, let's go back a little bit. So I'd go into the stubborn hair. So are you looking for a strip wax or are you looking for a hard wax? With if I can go through this. So the Seropill, I would go with the Forte, to be honest with you. The hard wax for Seropill, I would personally, the Home or the Essential Rose, that will depend for you on if you like creamy gel texture or if you want to scent. Those two are where I would play in on the Cerapill side, Lycon, to be perfectly honest, the rosette on both fronts, on the hard and the strip. And Etal wax, I would go with the rose oil and the pour home or the white chocolate. Those would be the ones that I would say that you'd have some of the most success with for that red hair. Those are tough ones. That's a good question.
Yeah. She followed up with another just clarification. She's looking mainly for brows and Brazilians for redheads.
Any of those would be fine, depending on if you want a strip or a hard. Any of those from each of those lines you'd have success with. And the nice thing with these guys too, because redheads, you're always going to have some redness left behind there. You're going to have a little less redness with some of these. The Forte, you probably wouldn't have as much redness with the Cerapill. The Essential Rose, I would say you'd have less redness, especially on the face too. I personally, because generally this is a question too, for hard wax, I only use hard wax on the face, so I would choose the Essential Rose, the Rosette, or the white chocolate. Those would be my first go-tos if you're a hard wax girl like I am for the face.
All right, thanks, Tiffany. One more question. What is the best wax for males?
What body part?
This question came from C. C, are you looking for a particular body part? Maybe let's start with backs.
It's any of them. What you want to look more as is hair type and not necessarily male female. And I'll say that because the redheaded question is a great one to go back to, only because it doesn't matter if you're male or female. Redheads are they're challenging, right? So if you have a redhead and it's a back wax, you're still going to want to look at some of these waxes for the stubborn hairs. Now, if you have a back wax that is a regular client, you don't necessarily have to go with one for the most stubborn hairs, because if they're regular, then their hair is going to be softer, finer, smoother, less, right, as they start to come in more. So that kind of depends. If we're talking about male Brazilians is again fairly well the same. I don't personally pick based male or female. I base more hair type, body part, if that makes sense. Because honestly, I mean, I wax, there's women's backs and some chests and bellies that you're going to wax on women as well, right? So, and they have peach fuzz on their rear ends too, right? Or some of them also have a lot of kind of stubborn, thicker hair back there too. So instead of necessarily looking for gender, focus more on type of hair, because that a lot of times can help you out. I don't know if that really answered the question.
No, that was good. That's
Okay.
good. Thank you. We have a question here that there's seen some things on the internet about different waxes that hurt less on the client. Can you speak to that?
Well, this is just my personal thought process on that. Waxing is not a comfortable situation. It's not. And your job is to make it as comfortable as possible. I generally tend to like to break it down more for technique than the actual product itself a lot of the time, because I don't necessarily think there's a way to take all of the uncomfort out, and I don't necessarily think that one hurts less than another. Now, with that being said, I personally, again, I choose hard waxes on the more sensitive spaces like the face, the underarms, Brazilians, but that's because that's a comfort level for me also. I work better with those on those areas. So I always have used hard waxes on those areas, right? But I don't necessarily think that using a strip wax on those areas would hurt more either, to be perfectly honest with you. Now, again, let's go back to looking at the ingredients. So your pine beeswax blends are going to be tougher. They're going to probably be a little more aggressive than the synthetic ones, to be honest. So if you're going to use something like the Lycotech White, either strip or hard, or the Cerapill, the crystalline, that one's a great one. You may have less discomfort with those because there's less actual grip on the skin itself, which a lot of times that may help alleviate some of that discomfort, if that makes sense. That's a tough one.
Yeah, thank you. All right, we have a question here. What are your wax recommendations for thick, coarse hair for Brazilians?
So again, going back into that.
Oh, shit.
The hard wax, the blue, the essential rose, the home, any of these would be good for thick, stubborn hair. Now, again, I tend to not always tell you my personal preference, but I'm going to tell this to you because I have had more success with creamier textured waxes when it comes to thicker, coarser hair, because I will absolutely apply more product to those areas and make a really nice kind of hefty lip on there. An amount of product, I tend to really feel that the creamier waxes kind of sink a little bit more in between that hair to get really to the skin. That's that's my own personal success in my own office with my own clients. I do gear more towards creamy textured waxes, and honestly, any of within these three lines, any of these creamier textures to me work the best for the stubborn, the thick, that crazy hair that you're like, oh my gosh, how am I going to get that out? These are the ones that I always kind of gear towards.
Okay, great. Adia said thank you.
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
that. Okay, I don't see any other questions, so maybe we'll wait a little bit to see if anyone else has questions. In the meantime, I just want to remind everybody that in the handout section, we do have the handout that Tiffany showed that kind of breaks down all the waxes that we have with all the categories, and we also did attach a PDF of the slides as well. So make sure you download those before the presentation ends. All right, we got another question here. Can you apply the wax again if you don't get all the hair? And if so, which ones?
Now, with all three of these lines, every single wax is okay to apply more than once. With that being said, we didn't obviously go through protocol, but with all of these, I apply oil down, and the oil is going to create that barrier between the skin and the wax. That is what is going to give that protective barrier to the skin to allow you to apply the waxes more than once. And, to be honest with you, if there's any students in here, unfortunately, you guys are taught, and as far as state board is concerned, you're taught that you can only go over an area one time, which, to be realistic, that's just not how it works. There will always be one or two that just doesn't get grabbed for some reason. So you're generally going to have to do a little cleanup here and there, and that's normal. So it's absolutely fine for, again, any of these waxes that can go over the skin more than once. But again, just make sure that you've applied your oil down and take a look at the skin. Make sure that it didn't welt or it doesn't have any hives or any kind of extra irritation. Again, redness, don't worry too much about. But yeah, any of them are, and I have used, just so all of you are aware, I have used every single one of these waxes on my clients. So mine, they get a little confused with all of the product that I always have consistently changing out, but I have used all of them and I've never had a challenge with any of them on the skin having to go over more than once.
Okay, great. C says thank you for that.
Yeah.
All right, I think that is all the questions we have.
And don't forget, if you think of something later, you can always email, call us, shoot something in the sky. We'll see it. We are here to help. And you may, you know what, you may have questions later when you're in your office this week on, oh, maybe I forgot about this question or this scenario. So don't hesitate to ask. That's definitely what we're here for. Our next webinars, we're going to get into the waxing product knowledge. I wanted to, because again, we have so many different lines and there are so many waxes and it does get very overwhelming. I understand that definitely. It's like looking for skincare lines. You're like, oh, there's so many. So we're going to get into actual product knowledge and we're going to go, the first one is going to be with Etal Wax. This one's actually with their educator, which is amazing. And I'm looking forward to working with her and listening to her on that webinar. And then the next waxing one is going to be, it'll be with me, and we're going to get through Lycon and all of the different waxes of Lycon and how to use all of those. And this is where we are. So we've got California and we've got Colorado. We have, again, all of the staff. We do have classes in-house. So if you are close to either of our locations, we love to see people. So don't forget to call us if you have any questions, concerns, anything. We are here to help you as a team. Any last questions before I let you get on with the rest of your Monday? Hopefully the rest of you guys have the day off and can enjoy your day.
One last question, Tiff. Somebody is wanting to know what our email addresses are. So if you are in the pink region of the map, you can email alexanders@thegrid.net. And if you're in the blue portion of the map, you can email info@alexanders-aesthetics.ii, which is Roman numeral 2.com. If you email either of those, it doesn't matter if you're accidentally get into the wrong region, we'll get you to the right place. So either of those emails will reach us.
And if you go to the website too, it will direct you in the contact us also. Well, thank you all so much for joining us. I'm excited that we're doing these. I'm excited that you guys are joining us. We're excited to get the information out to you. If you have anything that you would like to see or hear from us about, please, you can absolutely shoot us an email and let us know the topics that you're looking for, things like that. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you guys so much. Enjoy your week.